Joining us now, let's give a warm audience welcome to President Trump's attorney in this case, Joe Tacopina, who joins us. And also joining us, former FEC Chairman Brad Smith. Brad, welcome to you as well. You know, Joe, let me start with this, because this is important. When's the last time you've heard from the DA?
I mean, Susan Nicholas, my co-counsel, spoke to him a week ago or so. I mean, they don't keep us up to date on all this stuff or in the loop, if you will.
Now, it's pretty unusual for a grand jury proceeding to be canceled like it was today.
Sure.
I mean, we're speculating, but it's pretty rare. It does happen occasionally. It may be rescheduled tomorrow. We don't know. Do you know who the last witness is?
No. Again, the grand jury proceeding is the DA's proceeding. It's not a joint proceeding. It's something that they use as a mechanism to bring a charge. It's a formality for the most part. But we don't know what's going on. But I can tell you there appears to be chaos in that office right now, as there should be, because the Manhattan District Attorney's Office was once the pinnacle of prosecutors' office in this country. You know, now it's something that's being used as a political tool. And when I see the justice system and a prosecutor's office being used to weaponize the justice system against an individual, it makes me sick to my stomach. As a former prosecutor, I could never have imagined this. Sure.
Yeah. All right. This letter that I have here, it's a copy of this letter. This is the FEC letter.
Yep.
You have seen this letter. Yeah,
just today. It came out today for us anyway. We got our hands on it today. It's a bombshell.
Okay. Now, I read it, and to me, it's as exculpatory as any lawyer would ever want, right?
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, it's Michael Cohen relating to a federal authority, another federal authority,
right,
for which it is a felony to lie to. Okay, it's a federal offense to lie to a federal authority. So he's either going to have to say he committed another felony for which he was not prosecuted for, or he's going to have to say this was truthful. And if it's truthful, what it says is Donald Trump and the Trump organization knew nothing about his deal he struck with Stormy Daniels.
What did you think of the comments of Bob Costello on this show last night? Because I thought they were blockbuster. Alan Dershowitz went as far as to say, case closed, that the DA cannot use Michael Cohen as a witness because he would be contradicted by Costello.
Costello and now a big firm called McDermott, Will & Emery, one of the most prestigious firms in this country. It's a second firm. This corroborates Bob Costello, who has no need for corroboration. He's a very reputable lawyer without an axe to grind here, and he's not a convicted liar, as Michael Cohen is. This letter here is so devastating to their case because it is them representing to a federal agency, the FEC, the Federal Election Commission, that this was done without any thought of the campaign. Of course it wasn't. Look, I've said this before, Sean. Anything that they're saying, assuming it was 100% truthful, okay, Cohen and Bragg and all that, it still does not make it a crime because there's no campaign finance law violation here at all.
If you take Michael Cohen in his own words and you have an opportunity to cross-examine him, I see a lot of the joy came right to his face.
There will be no meat left on that bone if I ever get the chance to do that.
That'll be must-see TV. But you're dealing with a convicted felon and an admitted liar, a serial liar.
Serial liar.
Okay. And he was charged and he imprisoned as a result.
Yeah.
Okay. How does he become their star witness?
You know, it's funny. I don't know, because Alan Bragg, only a couple months ago, if you read Pomerantz's book, and if there's any truth to that book.
They called it the zombie case.
Yeah, they called it the zombie case, but they also said, he quoted Alan Bragg in a meeting, D.A. Bragg saying, I can't imagine a world in which I would ever call Michael Cohen as a witness against Donald Trump.
Yeah, let me go to Brad.
So I guess something changed in the last few months.
All right, Brad, let's talk specifically about your job, FEC, because the FEC looked at this very case, as did the DOJ, as did the previous Manhattan DA, and even Alan Bragg in the beginning. They all passed on it because of why? What's the reason why they passed?
Well, that's a great question, Sean. Let me start by saying something. Since I'm on with Mr. Trump's lawyer, I want to point out I'm not a paid consultant to the Trump campaign. I'm not an unpaid consultant to the Trump campain. Somebody asked me today when I told them I was going to be doing your show, they said, you're going to be on with Joe? And I had to say, I'm sorry, Joe. I had to say, who's Joe?
Thank you,
I'm here because I know campaign. I'm here because I know campaign finance law.
By the way, he's tried, what, over 100 cases in New York?
Yeah, 100.
By the way,
more than 100 jury trials, yeah.
I'm slighting me, not him, Sean.
No, Brad. Listen, this guy is I mean, here is the pinnacle of resources when it comes to federal election laws.
All right,
he was the chairman, so let's see what he has to say.
I'd love.
Yeah, so let's get to your question.
You take over. You ask the question.
You can go home now.
I can go home.
Guys, I got this. Don't worry.
All right, Brad. This is really an important question. Though. So let's go over the law.
The claim made by the DA is the federal law says something is a campaign contribution if it's made for the purpose of influencing a campaign. And that's the argument, well, they were trying to do this because they thought it would help Trump's campaign, so that's the theory. The problem with that is that the federal law, that standard is not a subjective standard. In other words, some random person and pay them $50,000 because I thought that would help Trump get elected or anybody get elected. That wouldn't be a campaign expenditure just because that was my bizarre belief. It's an objective standard. And that's made clear by another part in the law that very specifically points out who you cannot or what things you cannot spend money on. So, for example, candidates can't spend money on clothing, even if the candidate thinks, I've got to do a nationally televised debate. I'm going to go out and buy a $6,000 suit that I would never buy, but for the fact I'm running for office. Doesn't matter. It's not a campaign expenditure. And I think just as a common sense matter, most of us would agree with us that most of us would not think that it is a campaign expenditure to try to settle potential legal claims against you or other claims against you for events that occurred 10 years before you talked about running for office, allegedly to pay hush money to Stormy Daniels or anybody else. I think it's a common sense matter. Most Americans don't think that's a campaign expense. And the odd theory of the DA Bragg is that not only could those expenses be paid with campaign funds, they would have to be paid with campaign funds. I think, again, it's a common sense matter. That's clearly wrong. But also, when you look at the statute and you realize that's an objective standard, it's clearly not correct to say that these were funds that count as a campaign expenditure. And had Mr. Trump paid for them with his campaign funds, my guess is that people in the DA's office right now would be trying to think about indicting him for illegally using campaign funds, for converting campaign funds to his personal use. Want to get you coming or going. But I think the correct answer is there's no violation here as it stands.
Brad, I got to be honest, that is the most comprehensive, thoughtful answer on the FEC part of this that I've ever heard. Great job. Joe, I'm going to give you the last word on this question. You keep saying there's no law broken here.
There's not.
Well, what are they attempting to do then?
I think they're attempting to fulfill a political vendetta. Right. I think Alan Bragg is playing to his donors. Right. I think he's trying to appease them, and he doesn't really care what the end result is going to be here, because this case will not be won by the district attorney's office. We will win this case, if God forbid they bring it. But I think, unfortunately, we're at the point now where prosecutorial discretion is being abused so badly that it doesn't matter what they think they're going to bring or what theory. As long as they can get an indictment, they think they've won. I quite frankly think it backfires on them, because they're going to lose this case, and I think it's going to catapult President Trump back to the White House.
Quick poll of the audience. You all agree this backfires on them? You do? Okay. Joe Tacopina, thank you. Brad Smith, great job. Thank you. We appreciate it.